Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the new Marvel Legends X-Men 3-pack, which includes Quicksilver, Magneto, and Scarlet Witch. I'm going to be reviewing all three of these figures in this one video because I don't think I need to stretch it out across multiple videos for the ad revenue, and I'd rather you guys be able to see this whole pack in its entirety. I think that makes the most sense. It's how you're going to buy it, it's how I'm going to review it. This is going to be a long video, and I am going to go in depth. This, I think, is one that warrants a little bit of extra detail, so you might want to have a snack, grab a drink. I've already got mine, so I think it's time we just go ahead and dive into it. So let's get these guys off the stand and take a closer look. Alrighty, so we are going to do all three figures. I'm going to do one at a time though, and then I'll just come up with an overall consensus at the very end, but we'll still give an individual rating for each figure for each part. So first off, we're going to look at Quicksilver. This guy stands about 6 3/8 inches roughly, which makes him pretty close to about 16.5 centimeters, pretty close to that. And so it's time to talk about the aesthetics on this guy, and there's a huge issue. Right off the bat, there are two. Actually, there's a bunch. This thing's it's riddled with problems. It's not good. It's not good. I'll put up the old one so you can see what it looks like. Clearly, didn't age well. But you can see right off the bat, there are things this figure does better. Namely, the color. Quicksilver is not this color. I looked all over the internet. All over it. Literally everywhere. Did you know literally everyone uses that word incorrectly? Anyway, I couldn't find this color blue of him anywhere, except for on some weird fan-made body pillow, of which I ordered two, but it just doesn't look right. It's not the right blue. It's got too much yellow in it. It's borderline green. I mean, it's not green, but it's kind of teal. It's kind of teal, and that's not right, because he's either this color blue, like a cool frosty blue, a bright blue, or green. Never teal, so that's definitely a problem. I will say I like the pearl they used for him. That's very nice. Where they matched this blue on the pearl, it does look pretty good. That's okay. They matched this blackish color. It's not, maybe it is black. Here's the thing, this part looks pretty black, but where they painted it up here, it's navy blue. Well, that looks like butts, so that's not okay. And then the lightning, I guess it's kind of a lightning stripe. It's pretty terribly painted just about everywhere. Actually, it's pretty clean on the back, but on the front, it looks rough. Very rough. So that's definitely a problem. This one, from like 1,000 years ago, infinitely cleaner paint job. Almost perfect paint job. This one looks like butts. Moving on to the head. That's not what Quicksilver looks like. At all. This guy looks like he's about 50 years old. This guy looks like this could be a Magneto head. That's not right. They also didn't give him the Wolverine style hair or the V type of hair. So this is one option where he's got the kind of like the Wolverine style. I mean, obviously this isn't a good sculpt, but he's often drawn with the kind of pointy things going back. And sometimes he's drawn with the V thing coming up more predominantly in the front. This one has really neither of those. And I know that is kind of technically an option that they have drawn him that way, but this is just like the laziest. It doesn't stand out. If you didn't have that on him, you'd be like, oh, it's gray hair guy who doesn't really look like anybody. Except for the guy who's coaching his son's soccer game, because it just looks like an old man with gray hair. Speaking of which, it has dark gray hair. Also not typical for Quicksilver. He normally has white hair. And so they didn't even dry brush anything on there. So ultimately, this doesn't look like Quicksilver in any of the specific ways. General idea, yes. Overall, specifically, no. It's definitely a problem. And it's such a basic design that's really irritating. They even use this body, which is pretty good. I like this body overall. And they seem to don't care. They seem to don't care. That's English, by the way. It's just definitely a problem. So aesthetically, this figure gets a 5 out of 10. It misses the mark in almost every way. Definite problem. As far as accessories go, we do have some interchangeable hands. So we do have the 2 fist hands and then the 2 karate chop, which are actually running hands. And so that's okay. 5 out of 10 for accessories. As far as his articulation goes, well, it's pretty much standard and we've seen this body before, so we'll run it really. Oh, by the way, his head's too big. His head is definitely too big. I forgot to mention that. The proportions make him look very strange. His head is way too big for this body. He looks really weird. Okay, back to the articulation. So you have your ball peg in your hinge, head rotates no problem, it leans forward and back no problem. Can you use the attitude just the tiniest little bit? Butterfly joint is lovely on this mold, we know that. Shoulder rotates just fine. Goes up, with some force, but better than horizontal, that's fine. Bicep swivel is okay. Double jointed elbow is okay. Wrists swivel and hinge, that's fine. These hands, by the way, the hinge is horizontal, which is standard, not vertical. Probably would have been useful as a vertical hinge, but not necessary since it's just for running. Ab crunch is okay. They didn't continue the line very well, though, and this is the one where whoever uses the ab crunch looks pregnant afterwards. So, it's functional, but not well executed, really. Waist twist is fine. Hips go forward at an angle that will be somewhat problematic for posing him running, but not terribly. Out to the side is about 45 degrees. Thigh swivel's fine. Double jointed knee is fine. Boot swivel is fine on this side. On this side, I got another right leg, and it doesn't work. Way to go, Hasbro. Feet go all the way back. That's awesome. And they go forward far enough. I like that. And then you get a decent ankle rocker. Sure wish I didn't have two right legs. So articulation on this guy gets his 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10. I'll give him an 8 just because the thighs could the hips could definitely work better, especially for someone who needs to run. Final verdict on this guy alone is, well, let's see, we got a 5 and a 5 and an 8. I'm gonna give it no, I'm gonna keep it at a 5. Screw the 8. The 8 doesn't make up for the fact that it doesn't look like the right character. The head's not him. That is not Quicksilver. Also wrong color. Also wrong color hair. Also the head's too big. 5 out of 10. Don't buy him alone. Moving on to probably the highlight of the pack. Who would have guessed it? Probably nobody. Still some problems, but mostly good stuff. So let's go ahead and review her. Scarlet Witch. This figure stands 16 centimeters, almost exactly to the top of her hat, which makes her just about 6 1/4 inches. And here she is up against her, which is basically the same figure. We have different heads and some gloves and color scheme and boots. So it's not the same, but it is mostly the same, kind of. So here's the interesting thing about this. This figure looks really good. This figure looks really good, and there's a pair of reasons why this figure stands out to me, but they both technically have some good reasons to like them, and I like either of them equally. But here's the thing that's cool about this. The heads swap. They actually do swap relatively well, so if you wanted to do that, you could. And then the last thing I want to compare about these two is just the faces. This one's a very toonish style face, very comic inspired. This one is almost like a real person, which is kind of strange because it doesn't really fit in the Marvel Legends line. My personal preference is toward this, and I also like the fact that her hair does not stick out underneath. I do know that it's accurate sometimes for her hair to stick out underneath, but it looks silly in the comics. But they can get away with cheating because you don't actually have real hair in the comics. This is real hair, I mean plastic hair, that sticks out from underneath, and it doesn't really make sense. If you had hair sticking out from underneath that, it would just hang over her face, and it's kind of a dumb design. But it is accurate enough, so I'll give it to them. That's fine. So as far as choosing between the two, it really just comes down to preference. I'd say get both and maybe part swap and get what you like out of it. Either way, this one's a standout because it's shiny. I like shiny things, and it's very shiny. I love that metallic purplish red that they did. Very nice. I like the head sculpt overall. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of the hair, but that's a minor detail, and it technically isn't wrong, so I don't really care either way. But the hair is sculpted really well in general. I like that. I like that it's shaded very nicely. I like that her face is done really well, though some people are noticing that her eyes look weird. Well, they're actually really well done. The only thing that makes them stand out is they put the black line at the bottom and at the top. And as you'll notice, they normally only do the top, which is, it's just a matter of personal preference. They did a really clean job on that face, though. It's a good sculpt, and the paints are basically perfect, so that's exceptional as far as I'm concerned. The cape is still a really nice sculpt, just like it was before. I love that. Like I said, the pinkish purplish metallic is really cool looking. They added the gloves, that's nice. They did the flat shoes. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but it's going to be easier for her to stand. While I don't mind these feet, I know there is some inherent problem with getting her to stand, so I think that's okay. So aesthetically speaking, this figure, other than personal preference, I'm going objectively, this is a 9 out of 10. Objectively, it's really well done. Very nicely done. The rest is all personal choice, and I'm not against any of it. I just don't necessarily prefer some of it, but it's still really, really well done. As far as accessories go, we have two for her. We have these two little pink things, and that sounds worse than I meant it to, but this one is kind of arm shaped, and you can wrap it around her arm, and that's okay. And this one is a lot wider and doesn't seem to fit anywhere except kind of her thigh, so I don't know why you would put that there. It's weird. The pink is done really nicely, but there's like 3 pieces of glitter per piece, and it looks weird. So kind of crap accessories. 4 out of 10. Not very well done at all. All right, for the articulation, the head is on our, well, I'll show you. It's on our standard ball peg. So there's really no motion. Cape does come off if you wanted to, by the way. If you wanted to switch the dark cape with the dark head, you could do that. Though this head doesn't look bad, honestly. Like that head, that crown piece, whatever, matches the cape well enough. So if you wanted to swap them, you could. Anyway, there's no motion for the head. Because of that hair and because of the neck peg, you basically aren't moving the head at all. For the shoulder, you can get decent range out of it. The cape is in the way because of the hair, but not forward, I should say. You get decent range out to the side if you want. Going forward is quite limited. No bicep swivel. You get your bicep swivel down here with your single jointed elbow, which doesn't go 90 degrees. You do have a wrist swivel and a hinge, and that's about it. Diaphragm joint on this figure is acceptable. She's not doing any kung fu poses, but it'll help you give her a little bit of tude while you're posing her up. For the legs, they go out to the side, or forward, but it does bring them out to the side a little bit. Not too bad. I think it's okay. Going out to the side is not the best. It's definitely good enough for this character in particular, but it is fairly limited. They don't really go back too far. Thigh swivel is okay. You will notice, since these are different plastics, this is a PVC, this is probably ABS, or it's probably ABS. Anyway, it does not match perfectly, but the metallic does do a pretty good job of hiding that they don't quite match. Thigh swivel is fine, double jointed knee is fine, and then the ankles work no problem forward and back, and you get a decent enough ankle rocker. Not great. Also, the paint job, though it's minimal, is really clean on this figure, so that's all good. Articulation on this figure, 7 out of 10, I guess. The shoulders are limited by the cape and by the design, but it's not terrible. So, ultimate verdict on this figure, I think it's really, really solid. Well, the accessories are limited, but I don't care that much about that for this character. So, aesthetics are really high on this one. Articulation's good enough. I'm gonna not worry about the accessories because it's just Scarlet Witch, so give her a swooshy thing or something and you're fine, and it's good enough, but whatever. I'm gonna give her an 8 out of 10. Really, really nicely done, weighting heavily towards the aesthetic on this one, and so that's how you get that score. Time to move on to the main man himself, Mr. Magneto. And so Magneto has kind of a troubled history as Marvel Legends, so we're just gonna stand this guy here and we're gonna just run through them. We're gonna run through them real quick so you guys have an idea of what we're talking about. That's the current one, that's the new one we're reviewing today. Here's the original one of the very first Marvel Legends that they ever released. You can see they put a decent amount of effort into it, but he looks like a gorilla, and that's not great, so it's not a very good one. It's not very accurate. They just didn't know what they were doing. They tried, but ultimately it's a huge fail. If I was reviewing this today, it would be like a negative 10 out of 10. So we're gonna set him aside. Kind of irrelevant. Then, after about 100 years, we got this one, which, well, as you can see, it's a piece of shit. It is not good at all. It's terrible, in fact. The only thing that was good about this figure was the cape. The cape came out really nice, and that's kind of funny because they reused it. The head looks like ass. The arms are not good. The legs are not put together well. The feet are humongous. This figure is all around a bag of butts. So we're gonna set him aside because there's no point in talking about him. And then come this year, well, it was like within the last year, maybe, I don't remember because everything runs together because I do so many of these reviews. We get this one, which is the black and red version, which everybody was like, hey, that's kind of cool. I don't want black and red. No, some people wanted it, but it actually turned out to be a pretty solid release. As you can see, it has a really nice overall aesthetic. Pretty good, right? Well, yeah, pretty good. It also came with this head. This is gonna be important in a minute. So these are the two most recent releases. We have the black and red one, which fewer people wanted, but turned out pretty good. And then we have the red and purple one, which everyone wanted. And, well, there are some good things about it. I could say that, at least. It doesn't look anywhere near as good as this black and red one, at all. It uses the same cape as the other purple and red one. Mostly, and this is going to give me a minute to talk just very briefly. People always use the terms tooling and retooling. This is the same cape. It's the same sculpt. They added this piece. That makes it retooling. They took an existing mold, modified it a little bit, retooling. New tooling would be if you had this cape and then you made this. It's brand new. New tooling, brand new mold, modified mold. That's the difference there. Anyway, we have the cape again, and that's okay because it did look pretty good in the first place. Does it fit on the figure perfectly? No, not really, but it fits well enough that you could live with it. So the cape's okay. Did I do height? I didn't do height. Let's go ahead and do the height, and then we'll jump into the meat and taters of this review. He's a little over 6.5 inches, which makes him just about 17 centimeters. On to the aesthetics. The cape looks really good. It's still a really good sculpt. No problems with it, other than it could fit better, but adding that little tab is almost enough to help it. It still doesn't fit right. See, it doesn't connect to the chest. So that's a problem, but they did add some black shading around here, which I guess is okay. It's weird because there's no shading anywhere else, but I still take it, I guess, so that's fine. The metallic purple is really nice. The figure is made out of red, and it's okay. I mean, it's not consistent red. Like, the red here doesn't really match anywhere else. The red here doesn't really match anywhere else. And then they painted some purple on the arms, and it doesn't look very good. It's pretty ugly. They painted purple on the boots, and it looks really bad. It is not clean at all. There's red stripes going right down the middle on both legs. Looks like it looks bad. Arms look really bad. Legs look really bad. Oh, speaking of the legs, how did he skip leg day? What happened? His legs don't match the rest of his body, and they're kind of short and skinny, so it really gives him terrible proportions. It looks like a regular person wearing cosplay rather than a Jim Lee style Magneto who should be built like a linebacker. A slim linebacker, but a linebacker. I mean, it just doesn't look right. And it's interesting to me because I'm pretty sure this is the same sculpt. The legs don't look as skinny here. Maybe it's because of the black in the lines, I don't know. Maybe it's different legs. It kind of looks like they're the same though. It's hard to tell because of the bad paint jobs. Either way, the legs don't look good here. He looks really, really anorexic from the waist down. Very not good, proportionally speaking. But then, there's more. We have to talk about the head, guys. He's got a whole lot of top of his head, and not a whole lot of bottom of his head. So his helmet is very strange. It doesn't come down past his jaw. In fact, his jaw comes down past the helmet, and that definitely destroys the look of Magneto. He's got way too much top of his helmet. From the eyes up, it's huge. And not big at all from the eyes down. It should not have his jaw showing out the side. And it's not just the way it's glued on, it's the way it's made. Both of the heads that he comes with are like that. It looks like a Mego head or something. It looks like a stylized version where it just isn't meant to have human proportions. The paint job on these are pretty good. I had another set, thankfully, thanks to Quicksilver having a messed up leg, where the paint is terrible. But the paint job on the helmet is good. I like that the helmet's shiny, but it's way too much top of the head, not enough bottom of the head. Gives him really weird proportions. And then on top of that, aesthetically speaking, the face is a what the hell moment. That doesn't look like Magneto. His eyes are really far apart again. He's got a really big nose and flared nostrils, and then they gave him demon teeth. Like, that's the weirdest expression I think ever. It's a very weird looking figure. There's a little bit of shading on his eye area to make it look darker, but I mean, that's nice. And the eyes are painted well, but it's just a really weird face. And then this one, what is this? He looks like he's about 12 years old. When you open up his helmet, he looks a little bit like the guy that played Shao Kahn in the Mortal Kombat movie, but when he's closed, he looks like a little kid. Who's sculpting these? Also, look how big the top of his head is. And the helmet doesn't go down past his jaw. How come they keep screwing up Magneto? I can't take this anymore. I can't take this. To say this is the best Magneto we have is absolutely right, without a doubt. Other than the red and black one, but of this particular look, there's no doubt. But what are we comparing it to? We're comparing it to something that came out 20 years ago and looks like a gorilla, and something that came out less than 20 years ago and looks like a turd. So, yeah, it is the best we have, but that doesn't make this good. And it's unfortunate because Hasbro knows this. They don't have to make it good. It just has to be better than the crap they made last time, and people are gonna buy it. And I don't blame you guys for wanting to buy it. I wanna buy it. I want this in my collection because I need a decent Magneto figure that doesn't look like absolute crap. Instead, I'll take one that's about half lazy and half acceptable. It's a lousy situation for us as consumers. It's 100% Hasbro's fault, and they know exactly what they're doing. This is gonna make money for them, without a doubt. They didn't have to make it good. They can give him a giant head and a little stumpy body, relatively speaking. You have to look at the proportions overall. It's not at all what he's supposed to look like. No, it's not. It's just terribly misproportioned. So aesthetically speaking, yes, it's 100% better than before. It's still 50% of what it should be. So 6 out of 10. The aesthetics are not good on this figure. As far as the accessories go, we have the 2 open hands, which are okay. They're pretty good, I guess. We have 2 fist hands, and then we get the bubble effect again. This is actually a decent use for the bubble effect, I suppose. It doesn't snap onto his wrists very well because of the soft plastic they're using, but at least it kind of suits Magneto. He's often drawn with this kind of look, so I'll give you that. We do have the 2 heads. We have the one neutral head, which looks like a Ken doll, and then we have the one kind of angry head, which looks like a little demon or something. Like, it just doesn't look normal. Like, he's falling asleep in this one. How? Why? Stop screwing up. Stop it. So anyway, back to the other head. I told you this was going to come into play. If you wanted to, you can swap out the head from the red and black Magneto and give him this head. Very hard to get on, but it does fit on him well enough. If you really want to use that head, you can do it. Works well enough. That's okay. And if you really wanted to, I know it's not the right helmet, and this helmet is not the same design and it doesn't fit the same way, I get that, but it is made much better than the other one. If you really wanted to, you could swap those and repaint this. It wouldn't be perfect, but it looks a hell of a lot better than this one. I'm personally I have a big preference toward this classic look, but they did a much better job with this helmet. It actually fits over the head properly and makes the head look so much better. How did they go from that face to that? Look at the difference in the face. What the hell? Holy crap, what the hell? How? How? Stop. Yes, I'm mad. It's irritating. I'm paying for this stuff and they keep doing stupid things and making collectibles that everybody cares about not as good as they should be. It's annoying. So the accessories. Accessories, I'll give them a 7 because we have alternate heads, even though they suck. We have alternate hands and an effect part. I'll give it to them. Okay, we're going to take the cape off so we can talk about the articulation. Articulation on this guy. God, look how dopey he looks. He looks so stupid. I think I know what reference they used, guys. Here's the reference they used, and that's why they got it wrong. Okay, so the articulation, we have the hinge ball peg. Head moves forward and back fine. Side to side fine. You can lean it left to right a little bit, probably because the head sits too high. Shoulders go all the way up, no problem at all. Full rotation, that's good. Bicep swivel is fine. Double jointed elbow, and pretty good, that's fine. Wrist swivel and hinge, that's fine. Ab crunch works okay. By the way, we have flat and satin and like semi-gloss all throughout for the red. Not consistent at all. But the ab crunch does work well enough. The belt is a soft piece which is floating up above the crotch, so that's pretty good. I like that. The hips do go all the way forward, a little bit back, out to the side, pretty far. It's because they're so skinny. Thigh swivel is fine. Double jointed knee is not anywhere near as good as it should be because they still haven't fixed it. They have not retooled this mold. We still have that weird, terrible design where we have a double jointed knee that doesn't get better than 90 degrees really. Shin swivel is fine on this guy. Ankles go all the way back, pretty far forward, not too bad anyway, I guess. And then you do get an ankle rocker, which is pretty good. By the way, the shoe part of the boots, nice and purpley metallic. The painted part up here, they don't match. Another knock for the aesthetic. Just non-matching gloves to the forearms, non-matching boots to the other boots. Ultimately, the articulation is average. I'll give the articulation a 7 out of 10 because of those knees still being terrible. Boy, what a disappointment. Yeah, see, I know I'm going to get a bunch of flack for this, but I don't care because I'm keeping it 100% honest. It is better than before, without a doubt. So a lot of people are going to be very happy with it. It's still riddled with problems. Will you be able to hide the problems and make it look okay on a shelf? I suppose, maybe. But holy crap. Boy, is that an intimidating bad guy right there. Look at that villainous bad guy right there who looks like he's falling asleep with his eyes open. God, that doesn't look good at all. Okay, so final verdict on this Magneto. Better than before, want to be clear. Still turdy. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. Totally disappointing. And Hasbro freaking knows what they're doing. They know, guys. They know people are going to buy it. So they got it close enough. Close enough that a lot of people are going to say it's awesome. Some people like me are going to say it's not, and those people aren't going to be the majority, and they don't care. And that's fine, because they're going to make their money. So, overall verdict, a final verdict for this 3-pack. Speaking of which, hold on. Hold on. Since they made Quicksilver look like an old man with gray hair, even though Magneto typically has white hair, he has had some grayish tones to it. How does that look? Is that any better? Let's see. It's not terrible. If you wanted to go for a younger, not quite as old as this Magneto with the shorter hair, it's not terrible, honestly. It's not that bad of a look. It certainly doesn't look like Quicksilver. Anyway, this final verdict for this set is gonna be disappointment, 100% disappointment out of 10, but that's not a real rating. So what I'm gonna say is Quicksilver is not very good. Magneto is a huge letdown. Scarlet Witch is easily the best of the set. I'm gonna give the overall rating for this 3-pack a 6 out of 10. It's a huge letdown. It's a huge letdown. I mean, I don't think many people cared that much about Quicksilver. And a new Scarlet Witch, I don't know. Everybody liked this one for the most part, so I don't think it was absolutely necessary. So, in terms of importance, these two don't matter that much. That's the selling point right there. Magneto, everybody lost their minds when they said, hey, we're making a new Magneto and it looks like the Jim Lee one and it's not gonna suck. Well, you got 2 out of 3 right. It is new. It is the Jim Lee Magneto. That's it. It still kind of sucks. What the heck? They don't care. They made their money. People are going to buy it. I don't blame them. Either parties. I don't blame them for making it that way because they can get away with it. And I don't blame people for buying it because what other choice do you have? Mafex. We have Mafex. Here's hoping they turn out a good one. But so far, guys, not pleased with this. I'm very disappointed. And I think you guys will be too. So there you go. I wish this was awesome. I wanted this set to be perfect. Or, I mean, perfectly acceptable even. But Magneto looks like a dope. He's a doofus. Disproportionate doofus. He's no bulkier than Quicksilver barely. I mean, overall, they're about the same size. Hell, they're almost the same size as this lady. There's no soul in these figures. There's no character. There's no heart. There's no nothing. It's like totally run-of-the-mill, bland, vanilla, churn them out, make the money, and I'm sick of it, frankly. I don't like it. Look how much better that head is. That's not even 2 years difference, unless I'm way off on my memory. I don't think I'm that far off. Maybe 2 years difference. One's not even close to as good as the other, and it's the newer one. Alright, I'm done being... it hurts my feelings when I have to buy stuff like this. Because I wanted to enjoy it, and now I don't get to because it sucks. And that sucks. So I'm sorry, you guys don't like seeing negative reviews. I don't blame you, but the truth has to be said. And that's it. So thanks for watching, guys. If you do appreciate the truth and the details, then I've got thousands of videos for you already on the channel. And if you don't like any of those, I do have more coming out just about every single day. So make sure you subscribe and come back for that good stuff. And in the meantime, keep collecting.